Welcome to this edition of Out of Bounds. I'm John Luck with Mary Evers and Brian Berard. NFL free agency is about a week old, and we all know the biggest free agency move is Tom Brady going to Tampa Bay. But there were some other free agency shiftings taking place, including Phillip Rivers going to Indianapolis on a one-year deal. There were a lot of defensive players changing teams. Chris Harris going from Denver to the LA Chargers. Byron Jones, a cornerback, going from Dallas to Miami. He signed a 5-year, $82.5 million contract. And Kyle Van Noy going to Miami. He signed a 4-year, $51 million contract. So let's start off with Brian here. Aside from the Tom Brady to Tampa Bay signing, what are some of the other big contracts you're looking at as the biggest of the free agency period so far?
I'm going to go with Teddy Bridgewater going to Carolina. I mean, that's a great signing for that team, that offense with Cam Newton kind of having a mobile quarterback. And we saw what Teddy Bridgewater was able to do in his limited time with the Saints this season, so I don't know how you can't really go with that. The only other one that maybe you could stick out, and it's really not it is a free agent signing, but it's Drew Brees going back to the New Orleans Saints. But I really like that Teddy Bridgewater deal going to Carolina.
I think jumping off of your point with Drew Brees going to New Orleans, I think them signing Emmanuel Sanders in free agency from the 49ers is also a huge move for them because obviously Michael Thomas is either your first or second best wide receiver in the league. I think adding Emmanuel Sanders to that is going to give him a little bit more separation and Drew Brees a little bit more options with now having Sanders, Thomas, and Alvin Kamara. So I think that might be a sneaky good signing as well.
I'm just impressed by what's going on in the NFC South as a whole. You have Brady going to Tampa Bay. You have Sanders going to the Saints. And as Brian mentioned, you have Teddy Bridgewater going to the Carolina Panthers. So right now, does it look like the NFC South is maybe the best division in football right now, Mary?
Maybe it's possible. I think they definitely have some of the better quarterbacks in that, being with Tom Brady and Drew Brees being in there. I have a feeling, though, that it's going to be kind of disappointing. I don't know why, but I feel like every time something like this happens, like, oh, these two quarterbacks are going to face each other 2 times a year, and then Teddy Bridgewater is kind of a sneaky good move in Carolina. But I feel like it's going to end up being like they'll go, Brady will win one, Brees will win one. I still think the Saints will come out of that division as the winners, though.
And how about you, Brian?
I don't think it's going to be the best division in football. I think it's still the Saints' divisions to lose. I still like the NFC West out there with Jimmy G and the 49ers and Russell Wilson out there. And don't forget the Arizona Cardinals now with Kyler Murray. They're coming up and out of nowhere. So I think the NFC West is going to be a division that you're all going to want to watch out for.
Right, especially with Kyler Murray now having DeAndre Hopkins to throw to along with Larry Fitzgerald. So that'll be something to watch as well.
Yeah, I think the NFC South games are going to be some must-watch games early on. Of course, all the primetime matchups are going to be New Orleans against Tampa Bay. And I think Tampa Bay, any game they play is going to be interesting to watch. I think they go to Green Bay for a game. Obviously, you have the matchups with New Orleans and Carolina. So any game really that they're in is a must-watch because you're trying to figure out how does Tom Brady mold with the offense. And altogether, I think they're probably one of the better teams in the South. But obviously, the Saints are right up there as well. Now, we talked about a lot of these free agency moves here and the big ones, Teddy Bridgewater to Carolina, Tom Brady Tampa Bay, Emmanuel Sanders to the Saints. But the sneakiest big move in this free agency period, let's start with you, Mary.
I don't know. I don't think anything has been particularly sneaky. I feel like everything kind of makes sense. Obviously Tom Brady to Tampa Bay was a bit of a wild card that everyone knew was a possibility, but didn't really think was going to happen. But I think Teddy Bridgewater going to the Panthers was kind of the biggest. And then sneaky, I don't know. Honestly, like I there's nothing in there that is kind of super surprising to me that happened that I would consider sneaky.
For me, I'm going to go with Melvin Gordon going to the Denver Broncos.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when you don't research for a show there, Mary.
Okay.
I mean, pretty much the Chargers. So we're going to go with Austin Eckler in the backfield, and Melvin Gordon was kind of that odd man out, and he went to the Denver Broncos. I'm curious to see how that's going to work out. And, of course, Todd Gurley going to the Atlanta Falcons. We're going to know pretty quick if Todd Gurley's knee is going to be legit or if he's just going to be a bust.
I'm going to stick with the NFC South team here, and that's Robbie Anderson signing with the Carolina Panthers. Obviously, Cam Newton no longer with the team. You have Teddy Bridgewater. I think he's more of a conventional quarterback as means of, just throwing the ball around. But you look at what they have for a wide receiving core right now. They have DJ Moore in there, obviously Robbie Anderson and Curtis Samuel. Last year, the Panthers were a top 10 team in receiving yards altogether. Plus, you have Christian McCaffrey. So I think any defense that plays a team like Carolina, they're going to have to play a little more honest. And Robbie Anderson, he doesn't have to be that top guy like he was with the New York Jets. He can kind of blend in there as a second receiving target. But I think as far as a guy that plays right along the numbers on the field, I think he could be a very important pickup for the Carolina Panthers that are starting to experience life without Cam Newton.
And I think on the Jets part of that too, they replaced him with Rashad Perriman, who was an absolute stud in fantasy season this year, with Jameis Winston just chucking bombs to him left and right. So that's another signing that could be sneaky big with Sam Darnold in New York. If having Rashad Perriman, if he can be just even half the receiver was last year with the Buccaneers, that could be a pretty good threat there in New York.
So let's stick with the AFC East here. Obviously, there has been a monumental shift as far as the favorites in the AFC East. Brian talked about a couple of the pickups for the New York Jets, but obviously, Mary, a very big pickup happened in Buffalo. Stefon Diggs getting traded to the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, so it was kind of obvious since the middle of last season that Stefon Diggs wasn't happy in Minnesota. He never really hid his feelings of Kirk Cousins. So when Minnesota inevitably extended Kirk Cousins' contract, he was out. So they ended up trading him to the Buffalo Bills, which I think is going to be kind of one of the biggest acquisitions of any AFC East team this season, especially because without Tom Brady in New England, now the AFC East is a lot more open than it has been in the last 20 years. And obviously, Buffalo was a playoff team last year. So I think having a great receiver like Stefon Diggs might be the extra piece they needed to move a little bit further. Maybe not win the AFC completely, because obviously Pat Mahomes and Lamar Jackson are going to be tough to get through, but I think they're definitely going to be a better team than they even were last year.
They still have to worry about the AFC East. Let's not forget about this. I mean, on some sports books, the Patriots are still the odds-on favorite to win the AFC East. I mean, now that the Bills have put on Stefon Diggs, I mean, the Patriots are plus money at plus 100 now, and the Bills aren't that far behind them at plus 160. But, the Bills have been that team that they've been a nice little story in the past few years, finally getting to the postseason, but they haven't been able to do it. And then they had that lead against the Texans, and look what happened there. So I have to see some more consistency out of the Bills before I believe in them.
Yeah, but you also really can't predict what Jarrett Stidham's going to be if he ends up being the quarterback. So I feel like it's premature to decide Patriots versus the Bills. And obviously, Sam Darnold with another year under his belt might be a sneaky thing to look at too. I'm still not sure what's going on in Miami. They've obviously added a lot to their roster this year, and it's still possible that they might draft Tua. But for now, they're kind of still the low man out, I think.
Well, let's think about this. It seems like over the past few years, the AFC East teams, besides the Patriots, have been trying to build for this very moment when you don't have to compete with the brain trust of Kraft, Belichick, and Brady. And it seems like right now, the Buffalo Bills are maybe the best team equipped to do that. I don't think they're going to be an AFC contender as far as the AFC Championship. Like you said, that's going to go to Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes. But if you can win an AFC divisional or an AFC East division crown, that's going to be very huge, especially for a Buffalo Bills team that has done diddly crap since 1993, 1994 when they choked the Super Bowls away. If you're a member of the Buffalo Bills team or the front office, the important thing right now is just to put a winning team out there, continue to grow the fan base, because right now this fan base believes in the Buffalo Bills. And don't forget, I think it was week 15 or 16 when Buffalo came up here to Foxborough, they almost beat the Patriots and almost deflated the Patriots right there. So they were that close to surpassing Tom Brady and Bill Belichick right there on the field. And I think right now they're making some of the important moves, trying to get their quarterback, a veteran wide receiver, and Stefon Diggs. The defense continues to be something that, it may be a top 5, top 10 defense in the NFL. And then you look at Miami as well. I like what they're doing there as well, spending a lot of money on the defensive side of the ball. Byron Jones going there, Kyle Van Noy going there. And if they do draft Tua, you still have Ryan Fitzpatrick as that emergency quarterback. So I think next year you're talking about maybe a Buffalo Bills, Miami Dolphins 1-2 finish in the AFC East.
Yeah, and I
Okay,
think that,
John, hold on. Did you just say that the Miami Dolphins, a team that hasn't accomplished anything in a decade, they're going to all of a sudden be in the running for the AFC East because they got Kyle
Okay,
Van
what's
Noy?
the AFC
Come on,
East?
John.
What's the AFC East going to really consist of? That's the question here. The Jets, God only knows what you're going to get with Sam Darnold still seeing ghosts. The Patriots have a quarterback that not a lot of people believe in.
yeah, but
Remember
you
the
have
last
to.
time the Patriots had a quarterback that not a lot of people
Oh,
believed
you're
in?
not going to get
And then
Tom Brady
he got
2.0
6
with
quarters.
Stidham.
And look what happened. He brought another team to a Super Bowl.
No, I agree with Brian. I don't think Miami's going to be anything to look at, especially even if they do draft Tua. No one actually knows what his health status is. Like he was able to throw the ball a little bit a couple of days ago, but because of what's going on in the world, they haven't been able to actually give him a physical. So if they draft him, they're really not going to know what they're getting until the season can actually start, the preseason can actually start. So I don't think it's right to say, oh yeah, Miami's going to be a number one contender, because you know more about Jared Stidham at this point than you do Tua Tagovailoa.
Okay, well, that's called a hot take. So I was trying to get a hot take in there. My apologies for
No, that's
trying
called
to.
a bad take.
It's also called a take for trying to, be in your parents' good graces here as the son of a Dolphins fan. So let's talk about the New England Patriots through this free agency period, and what they've lost and what they're getting has been really hot and cold here. So let's start off with what they have coming to them. Cody Davis, Brian Hoyer coming back, I think, for the third time here, Brandon Copeland, Dan Vitale, Adrian Phillips, Bo Allen, and a wide receiver named Damiere Byrd. Meanwhile, you look at what they parted with: Philip Dorsett, Stephen Gostkowski, Nate Ebner, Landon Roberts, Ted Karras, Daron Harmon, Danny Shelton, Jamie Collins, Kyle Van Noy, Ben Watson, he retired, and then let's not forget about the greatest quarterback of all time, Tom Brady. So obviously a decent amount of turnover in Foxborough. So what do we make of the two lists that I just kind of rambled off there?
Well, I think you got your natural Bill Belichick case of let's get a bunch of unknown guys for the most part and see what they can do. I think that the fullback is a Danny Vitale or something like that they got from Green Bay. I don't know what his role is supposed to be. Does that mean James Devlin isn't coming back this year? I don't remember seeing anything about his injury status, because obviously he didn't play last season. For the most part. So I'm very curious as to what's going on there, but we're not going to find out for months, I think.
Look, I'm not all too concerned. I mean, look, I liked Kyle Van Noy. He was a good player, but he's not this huge role player that people seem to think that he was. I mean, he was a good linebacker, but he's not this big of a player that everyone thinks that he really should have been. I mean, and yes, you do lose out on Tom Brady, and it was time to rip the Band-Aid off, and we don't know who the starter is going to be. Either it's Brian Hoyer, or if it's going to be Jarrett Stidham, or heck, even who knows, maybe the Patriots go out and get Cam Newton or Jameis Winston. You really don't know. What was that, John?
Cody Kessler.
Okay, Cody Kessler, perfect. You don't know what that position is going to be for the New England Patriots. And I'm not really going to be all that concerned unless if you start seeing a little bit more players that either don't show up in your preseason camps and pull a Tom Brady and don't want to go to OTAs. But right now, I'm going to hold off because, again, the Patriots are in probably one of the worst divisions in football, the AFC East, even though John thinks that the Dolphins are probably going to win it, even though he's going to be wrong.
I said top two. But
yeah, top two. Okay, they're still going to finish in like third or fourth with the Jets, so that's fine. But I'm again, as long as the Patriots have Belichick in the AFC East, I'm not going to be all that worried.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that it's very naive to think that Bill Belichick is not going to be at the top of the AFC East in either one or two. There's no way.
And the big thing, too, is the Philip Dorsett was a nice little piece, and Brady and him got along. But look what Jarrett Stidham and Jacoby Myers did in the preseason. Like, there's your new connection right there.
Yeah.
So I just want to bring this part up here when we talk about Tom Brady. Obviously, Julian Edelman, who had an epic man crush on Tom Brady, he doesn't have his quarterback there anymore. So how do the Patriots approach the Julian Edelman situation? Because this is going to be a question that's going to be brought up on Boston Sports Radio, because don't forget, we are in an essential black hole of sports radio talk, right, or sports talk right now. So as far as Julian Edelman, where do we see him? Because I think at this point, it may be worth shopping him, maybe not trading him, but seeing what teams would be willing to give you for a wide receiver the caliber of Julian Edelman.
Well, the other day, Oh,
Go ahead.
the other day, Julian Edelman did post on Instagram a picture of him at Gillette Stadium that said "Forever Foxborough." A lot of people took that as one of two things: either he's committed to staying on the Patriots and working with Jarrett Stidham, or he's going to retire. Either way, I think the whole point of it was that he is planning on finishing his career in the Patriots. Now, I don't know how happy he's going to be without Tom Brady. And I don't know how much of a help he'll be with Jarrett Stidham, but I don't expect him going anywhere, and I don't expect Bill Belichick even trying to shop him, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, the Patriots will get a low third round, high fourth round pick for Julian Edelman. I mean, he's a receiver that thrived under Tom Brady. It's not like he's this world-class standout receiver, so you're not going to really get much for him. And as for play, I think Edelman is going to be just fine. He was willing to work with Jimmy Garoppolo, and Jimmy Garoppolo built up a pretty good rapport with him until that injury happened to his shoulder, and then you had to bring in Jacoby Brissett, and Edelman kind of just closed the door and said, all right, I give up. So I'm not going to be all that worried about Julian Edelman.
Do we see Edelman maybe being used as a consultant type of wide receiver? Not that he's going to lose playing time or anything, but maybe working more with Jarrett Stidham, like you said, but also working with N'Keal Harry and Jacoby Myers, because those are two wide receivers I think that have some talent. So, maybe having a year with Tom Brady under their belt, a new quarterback coming in, maybe a chance for Julian Edelman to get everybody kind of on the same page here.
Well, I think he has to be, because he's now pretty much the de facto leader of the offense. And now that Tom Brady's gone, I think it might be his time to shine. And I feel like he might remember the work that Brady put in with him originally to get him into this offense, and kind of do that with other receivers and also Jarrett Stidham.
Look, like it's not like his best friend died. I mean, he went to a different team. I mean, like Edelman's, he's going to work with the young guys, and he's still going to probably be the number one receiver in this offense. Like, I don't know why we're making this such a huge deal.
It's called.
I know we need stuff to talk about.
You got to create content, Brian. This isn't, a 5-minute segment. We got to try and create some content.
Why don't you talk about e-gaming or bull riding? Those are the things going on. Those are the things that people really want to hear about, John.
Well, if you caught our last episode, Brian, we did talk about ESPN 8 the Ocho, so we're up to speed.
That's not e-gaming at all.
They
showed
neither's bull riding
racing, which, by the way, that should be a staple in every American home right now. Trolley racing was amazing, or trolley, whatever it was.
The audio was terrible.
That's what it was. That should be like internationally televised at all times.
As long as they can fix their audio problems, I'm in.
All right,
well, we can dub.
Let's go from tram racing back to the NFL for a second here, if that's possible here. Talking about some of the big name free agents that are still out there, because there's some big names out there. And, let's start off with Logan Ryan here. Obviously a player in the secondary that ended Tom Brady's career as a New England Patriot, bringing it back for a pick six. So where do we think Logan Ryan would end up?
Okay, I don't think he ended Tom Brady's career.
Well, the last thing you're going to remember with Tom Brady is that interception.
No one's going to remember that as Tom Brady's legacy with the Patriots.
Although that would be a cool and interesting trivia question: is who picked off what was Tom Brady's last pass to?
It's true.
But look, I don't think Logan Ryan is that key of a player. He's like a nickel defensive back. That's pretty much what he was in the Patriots system. I mean, maybe he goes back to Tennessee. I don't know. I really don't care, to be honest with you, at this point.
Yeah. I feel like he could just, his value is just going to drop, and then right before training camp starts, some team who realizes that they have an injury or some sort or something like that is going to pick him up. It's not going to be a huge deal when he gets picked up.
All right, let's talk about quarterbacks now because – Brian?
Oh, so I was going to say, he's still going to be a sought-after player. He's not going to be one of these people that, if there's an injury, they'll bring him in. He'll still sign somewhere, and he'll still probably be a starter. But
All right, let's talk about some maybe more interesting names here. Jameis Winston, a very hot and cold quarterback, 30 interceptions, 30 touchdowns last year. Do we see Jameis Winston getting maybe not even a starting job, but a backup job at this point? Because the jobs are starting to really fill up in the NFL.
Jameis Winston will be a starting quarterback, and he'll probably be the starting quarterback for the LA Chargers because they now need a quarterback. Mm-hmm. And Jameis Winston, as the last time I came on the show, I mentioned, he did get that LASIK surgery. He can see 20/20 now. He's going out to a new team with a new stadium. I think he's going to be a good fit out there in Los Angeles.
Yeah, no, I think Los Angeles is probably your best bet because at this point, I think everyone else has figured out their starter for better for worse. I mean, I think the Raiders may not have made the best decision with their quarterback, so he might end up there at some point just to have some competition for their starting job. But yeah, I think Los Angeles is probably your best bet at this point.
See, I don't know if Jameis Winston is going to the LA Chargers. I think this next name is probably a candidate to go to the LA Chargers, and that is Cam Newton. I think he's a quarterback that still has a lot in him. I think if you can sign him to, a 1-year contract, kind of a repair year, if you will, I think that he could thrive in a situation like Los Angeles. The fan base there isn't as rabid as what it would be in some of the other stadiums. So maybe it's a chance for him to work on some things and kind of have the 2020 season act as kind of a job interview at this point.
I mean, yeah, he could be a good fit out there. I mean, look, one of them's going to go to the Chargers, and I really wouldn't be surprised if one of them ended up with the Chicago Bears because they really don't know what they have at the quarterback position. I mean, I know they really want Mitch Trubisky to be the guy because if he's not, that's going to make that organization look really stupid to trade up to that guy. And how many players did the Bears pass up on just to get Mitch Trubisky or Mitchell Trubisky, whatever he wants to go by now? I have no idea anymore. He's changed his name so many times. The media has. I have no idea. I don't even care. But the Chicago Bears really need that guy to really thrive in that situation, which is why they brought in Nick Foles. I just don't see it happening. He's going to have to sit for 1, maybe 2 years. And Nick Foles is a flash-in-the-pan type of quarterback. I would really love to see one of them go out to the Bears, but I know they're probably not going to sign one of those guys because if Trubisky fails, that organization just becomes more of a dumpster fire.
Yeah, and I think also another place to look at that might look for another quarterback at this point is Jacksonville, which Nick Foles just left. Obviously, they wanted
Jacksonville.
They obviously cut Nick Foles. They're into Minshew mania.
You don't like Minshew mania?
It's not that I don't like Minshew mania. I'm just saying that he might not be ready for primetime television. That's all. It's
how many times he won like Rookie of the Week?
It's not okay. It's not like he came out and was Tom Brady when he first this is.
He was pretty close.
Oh,
is he his fan club?
I think that they need a veteran guy behind Gardner Minshew just in case. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
They need to set Gardner Minshew free. He's a caged animal.
Oh. Wow. Okay. So between Newton and Winston, do we see the Patriots maybe looking at one of these quarterbacks?
No.
I would say they may look at Jameis Winston. I don't know if they really want to go with Cam Newton. I mean, Winston is kind of still young, and he just got his eyesight fixed. You've already know what you're going to get out of Cam Newton. I think that one play, though, in Super Bowl 50 with the fumble right in front of him where he didn't dive for it, I think still sticks in some owners and GMs and coaches' heads.
Yeah.
And like I said, you already know what you're going to get out of Cam Newton. He's a decent player. He's a decent quarterback that has a decent arm that can throw the ball. But when he gets injured or when he gets his head somewhere else, it's not a pretty sight. So I would hope that actually the Patriots give a flyer on Jameis Winston.
I think that the Panthers kind of did Cam Newton a bit of a disservice by waiting until after most teams had a quarterback before releasing him. I think that was kind of a bad move for them, especially when they got Teddy Bridgewater relatively quickly once free agency really started. So clearly they were going to go with Bridgewater over Newton anyways. So I think it might be a year before Cam Newton is a starting quarterback again.
And that might not be the worst thing, given his injury history. He's been a very injury-prone quarterback. I think he only played, 4 games last year? So maybe a year off wouldn't be the worst thing in the world for a quarterback like Cam Newton. All right, so I think that's going to do it for this episode of Out of Bounds, the free agency special, where we, again, talked about tram racing and esports and things like that. So another fun-filled episode. So for Brian Berard and Mary Evers, I'm John Luck. Thanks for watching.